Hey everybody, I thought I would try my hand at doing a movie review for once. I got to expand my content somehow, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Don't worry, this is only going to be like a one-off kind of video. I've already got a couple of videos in the works, so hopefully I can make videos like these to keep you preoccupied while I'm working on the regular stuff. Anyway, let's talk about Wes Anderson's new feature film, Isle of Dogs. Now, I was pretty hyped for this movie for a while now. So hyped I even made a meme on it.
Let's just open the sack first and see what's actually in it.
Okay, it's all worth it.
This was the second stop-motion animated film directed by Wes Anderson. Of course, the first being Fantastic Mr. Fox, which was a movie that I already loved, so naturally I was really looking forward to this movie. The promotion leading up to the film's release set itself up as I was in for quite the experience, and just as I expected, that's exactly what I got. I should let you guys know that this is in no way a kids film. This has a PG rating here in Australia, so that led me to think that this was going to have some sort of maturity, while still somewhat be tailored towards families. But as I watched the film with its bleak and often depressing and miserable tone it sets itself up to be, as well as bringing up subjects like suicide and decapitation, made me question that logistic, and as I later found out, it was a PG-13 in America, which is the equivalent of an M rating in Australia, which I found quite weird. I mean, this should have been an M the very least. Maybe there was some stuff cut out for Australian audiences to get a PG here, I'm not really sure. But that doesn't really matter, as I had a wonderful time with this film. The film's presentation and execution really stood out more than everything else, partially due to the outstanding animation, which really improved since Fantastic Mr. Fox. The color schemes, lighting, cinematography, the editing, and everything else in the technical realm was just aesthetically incredible and really on point, and it really worked to the film's advantage. I thought the two main characters were really good. The main boy, named Atari, had a sense of childhood innocence that we can all kind of relate to, since I'm sure the majority of us has had a pet in our childhood, and the chemistry between him and Chief, who was the stray dog in this film, was great. I thought the voices were pretty good, especially with Bryan Cranston, who voiced Chief, was just awesome. The aspect I found really intriguing was that most of the human characters spoke in Japanese, and they had English interpreters, which I thought that aspect was incorporated into the film really well. The emotional portions were done really well and really subtle too. It looks to me that the filmmakers weren't desperately trying to sympathetically manipulate the audience. They didn't add any sappy music, it was just more quiet, which I really appreciated. As I said earlier, it had a largely depressing and miserable tone, but it was well balanced with its quirkiness and charming nature, which I admired a lot, as well as a fair amount of intense action scenes that were really fun to watch. Now, if there was one major grasp I had with this movie, it'd just be the story alone. To me, it just kind of felt weak and nothing all that special. Not to say that it was terrible, because it had everything a story should essentially have, like a character's goal and the stakes that the character has to go through to get to that goal. But there was just some parts that felt a little bit inconsistent and even a tad bit predictable. They bring up a certain plot point, which to be honest, I kind of saw coming ever since one of the characters explains his backstory. And some of the writing felt pretty lazy as well, if you ask me. Like, there were parts where the characters would explain things to us. Considering how amazing the execution of the film was, it would have worked a lot better if the majority of the film's story was told in that way. Like, there was a couple of sequences in the film that did that perfectly. There was a sequence where we see someone making sushi, which was inevitably going to lead up to something negative. It was done all with visuals, and the film's score was a nice touch too, which was great. And speaking of which, the film's score was good as well. And to be honest, story-wise, it didn't really bother me that much, because the beautiful execution and presentation just makes up for everything. I'm not going to give too much away of what occurs in the film, but I really would have liked the story to be a lot stronger. If I was going to talk about Isle of Dogs, I should address the elephant in the room, and that's the political arguments that were made against this movie. There have been critics that have accused this movie for cultural appropriation, which I totally don't understand. The cultural appropriation excuse is just bullshit, and I don't see how this movie is offending Japanese culture. To me, it looks like they're paying respects to Japanese culture, and I don't see that as a big deal. Just because people part of a dominant culture is adapting a minority culture that they're not part of, doesn't mean they're causing any harm to it. And I don't see the mindset that people seem to have when they see it as problematic. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Isle of Dogs was thoroughly enjoyable. I think if anyone can appreciate a film as more of a visual art form of storytelling, then they would definitely love this film. Despite the story not being anything special, which was kind of a letdown for me, I was engaged and invested the whole time, and I highly recommend it to anyone who is a fan of animation and film to go see it. I had to drive 2 hours from where I am to go see it since my local cinema wasn't showing it, and I can safely say it was well worth it. I had a wonderful and delightful time with this film, and if you guys have seen it, I'm keen to hear what you guys think of it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.
I've lost all of my pride. I've been to paradise and out the other side, with no one to guide me, torn apart by a fiery wheel inside.